In this video, we'll be solving an equation which contains radicals. The problem that we'll be working with is to solve for x, the cube root of 5x squared minus 12x plus 6. Subtract the cube root of x is equal to 0. Now, as I'm working through the problem, the steps that I'm taking will be written here on the left side, and then I'll actually work through the problem on the right side here. So my first step is to isolate the radical on one side of the equation. If there's more than one radical, isolate one of them. So I'm going to isolate this first cube root of the trinomial. I'm going to leave that on the left, and then I'm going to move this little radical to the right side by adding cube root of x to both sides. So I have cube root of 5x squared minus 12x plus 6. That's on the left side, and then equals, and then when I move that to the right, I'll add cube root of x to both sides, and I'll just have cube root of x on the right side. My next step is to raise both sides of the equation to a power that is the same as the index on the radical. This will eliminate the radical. So I'll raise both sides to the third power because my index is 3. And so when I cube a cube root, that goes away. Those are inverse operations, and I'm left with just the radicand, 5x squared minus 12x plus 6. And it also, raising both sides to the third power, eliminates the radical on the right side as well. So I'll just have an x on the right side. So this step, if the equation still contains a radical, repeat steps 1 and 2. This step is not needed because I no longer have a radical in my equation. Then I need to solve the resulting equation. Well, I notice that I have x squared term, which means I have a quadratic. I'm going to move all of the terms to the left side and have it equal to 0. And then I always check to see if I can factor, because that's the fastest way. So if I positive x, negative x, move that over, I have a 0 on the right side now, and I have 5x squared minus 13x plus 6 equals 0. This trinomial does not factor. So I'm going to use the quadratic formula on this one. A is 5, and b is the coefficient of x, so b is negative 13, and c is the constant term, so c is 6. My quadratic formula is x is equal to the fraction negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So now I'm just going to put these values into my formula in place of each of those variables. So x is equal to negative, in place of b, I'm going to write negative 13 plus or minus square root of, now b squared, I'm going to square my negative 13. So negative 13 times negative 13 is 169. I'll just write that there. And then subtract 4 times 5, a is 5, times 6, c is 6, divided by 2 times 5. So I have x is equal to negative negative, that'll be a positive 13, plus or minus square root of, and make sure you do your order of operations. I need to do this multiplication before the subtraction. So I have 169 minus 4 times 5 is 20, times 6 is 120. And then in the bottom I have 2 times 5 is 10. I just need to do the subtraction here. X is equal to 13 plus or minus 169 subtract 120 is 49. So the square root of 49 is 7. So I have 2 values for x. Kind of went crazy on my fraction bar there. Let's just make that into an arrow. So I have x is equal to, now I'm going to take 13 plus 7, which is 20, divided by 10. And then my other solution would be 13 minus 7, which is 6, divided by 10. My last step is to check the proposed solution in the original equation. Let me simplify these fractions also. So I have 20 over 10 is 2, and 6 over 10 is 3/5. Now my original equation, let me write that here, cube root of 5x squared minus 12x plus 6. And I want to subtract from that the cube root of x. And that needs to equal 0 in order for that solution to work. So the first one that I'm going to check is x equal 2. So cube root of 5 times 2 squared minus 12 times 2 plus 6 minus cube root of 2. And I need to know if that equals 0. So let's use our calculator this time to check. I'm just going to enter this left side into the calculator and press equal and see if I get 0. So I want cube root of, I'll use this button with the X index. And I'm going to need a 3 on my index since it's cube root. And then my radicand needs to be in parentheses. So I have 5 times 2 squared minus 12 times 2 plus 6. Now I'll close up my radicand for that radical. And then subtract. And again I want a cube root, so I need to enter 3 and then the radical. And then my radicand on this one is just 2. So press enter. Hopefully I'll get a 0. Yes, I do. So this one checks. Now I need to check 3/5. So I'll have cube root of 5 times 3/5 squared minus 12 times 3/5 plus 6. minus cube root of 3/5. And again, I want to see if that equals 0. So the nice thing about these calculators is I can go back up and just replace the 2 where I did the work previously. I can replace that with 3/5. So I'm going to delete the 2 here and insert parentheses 3 divided by 5, parentheses closed. Now be familiar with your calculator to see what you can and cannot do. Here I have 12 times, and then again I want to delete the 2 and insert parentheses 3 divided by 5, and then keep moving over. There's my plus 6, and then my cube root of, and then I want to delete this 2 and insert 3 divided by 5. And that was all. So press enter. And I get 0 with that one as well. So that one checks also. So both of these answers are solutions to this equation.